This is the story of my 2021. Lesson 1. You can turn New Year's optimism into real momentum. 2021 started with optimism. We were done with 2020, the year that brought the pandemic and, this thing.
Imagine all the people.
And me personally, I really wanted some change, but I had no idea how big that change was gonna be. We started the change small. We got our first physical space and we renovated it. We took this shoebox, right? And it was a dump, man. There was stuff everywhere. There was no electricity. There was nails sticking out. And we turned it into a slightly nicer shoebox. It was the first ever address of our animation studio. All we needed now was, some animations. Lesson 2. Try to recognize the good you got before it's gone. We rode the momentum, animating our own pilot, Hump Wallace, Birds of Australia with Brown Cardigan, did a piece with the Kid Leroy, and we even got to work for the Dallas Mavericks. That was amazing. We were doing a big project with Jared Wright from the Big Les show, and at nights I'd write and illustrate my book. It was a cool time. And meanwhile, my sister told me she was pregnant. Shit's crazy. There was even promise of the New Zealand-Australia border opening up, which meant that I was gonna finally be able to see my mum. Everything was going real nice. Until it wasn't. Lesson 3. A close call with death can make you remember what's important. I got a message from my mum. She got in a freak mountain biking accident. She broke her shoulder, her wrist, her leg, and lost a lot of blood. She was so mangled that to get from the mountain to the hospital, she had to get in a helicopter. Can I say that about my mum? She was mangled? Sorry, mum. She said that the nurses did an amazing job, though. She also said that one of the nurses' name was Sonic, so shout out Sonic if you're watching.
Gotta go fast.
Now, for whatever reason, it just so happened that her accident lined up perfectly with the border opening. I bought the first plane ticket I could, and we headed over to New Zealand. We went to Whangarei, which is where my whole family's from, up in Northland. Mum was getting flown to the local hospital. We had just enough time to get in, get to her house, make this big welcome back poster, and meet her there. It was such a shitty circumstance, but oh my God, it was just so nice to see my mum again. It was so nice. We spent the next 2 weeks cooking for her and my stepdad and just chilling out, drinking coffee, doing puzzles, chatting. It was lovely. One morning, because, we're back in the motherland, right? Me and Fliss decided to take a little road trip out to the spot where I proposed to her. A place called Kaiiwi Lakes. We drank a little coffee, watched the sunrise, even got corny and reenacted the proposal. And it kind of got the wedding on our mind. We're like, man, I know it was cancelled last year due to COVID, but what if we just planned another one? Surely it can't get cancelled again. It's called foreshadowing, that technique. It did get cancelled. Lesson 4. Sometimes there's no silver lining. A little content warning for this section. We are going to be talking about self-harm and suicide. So if you don't want to hear about this, skip to this time code here. So this is what happens next. We're at Whangarei Airport, right? And I noticed on my phone I had a lot of missed calls from my dad. This is not common. So I call my dad back and I'm like, what's up? My younger brother Angus had tried to kill himself. He slit his veins quite deeply with a razor from his wrist to his elbow. And with these sorts of things, I think I can talk about it, but it's a lot better if you just hear it from Angus himself. So here he is. This is my brother.
Hey, I'm Angus. I'm an Aries. I'm just a little bit taller than Cam. Tried to kill myself 3 times. Favorite color is yellow. I was in a job that was making me the worst for it. I was drinking myself stupid every single day. I was staying indoors. I wasn't socializing. And on top of this, I was experiencing what was later diagnosed as psychosis. I had bought a packet of 10 razor blades to self-harm myself with. I had thought that once I reached the 10th razor, I was going to do something drastic, something big. I had a day where I was already feeling really, really terrible, and I wanted to hurt myself, and so I did. And I realized that I was at my 10th razor. So I thought, hey, no better time than the present, and I gave myself a little gift. I went to kill myself, and my plan was slitting my wrists from wrist to elbow. I did it once. And then went to make sure my pets were fed, write a note, that kind of shit. And then I go back to do the other wrist, and I couldn't find the blade anywhere. Turns out, if you only do one wrist, you don't bleed out as fast as you want. So, bummer, spoiler alert, I lived. 4 out of 5 stars. And in the morning, I had to really come to terms with what had happened. I'd already once before tried to kill myself, and I hid that pretty well. But I just knew that I couldn't do it this time.
This whole section of the year was just horrible. Lesson 5. If you want to feel better in a crisis, focus on the things that you can control. I figured the best medicine for me was escape. Threw myself into work, the gym, planning our wedding. We made heaps of pieces of new clothing. I started getting momentum on YouTube, and we even picked out our venue. It was nice. It was this little cute place in Tamworth. I love that promise of something cool happening in the future. It was good. Until, is that Delta?
A 2-week lockdown has been imposed in Sydney to contain an outbreak of the highly contagious COVID-19 Delta variant.
Sydney went into a little lockdown, which turned into a medium-sized lockdown, which turned into everybody being in their house for about 106 days. Good God, that was hard. Angus self-harmed a lot and attempted suicide again in this period. And I really kind of just struggled to care about anything for a while. I felt like the good year that I thought I was going to have in January had been hit by a truck, and now it was just roadkill getting eaten by vultures. We obviously decided to cancel the wedding, but this actually led me to a really cool thought. And that was that I really hate the idea of putting our life on hold. Lesson 6. If you really want something, why wait? Let's have a baby, I said to Felicity. Oh yeah, she said. So start trying next year, the year after? And I'm like, well, maybe now? I didn't know how long it took most couples to get pregnant, and every time it didn't work, it was devastating. But then we saw this. Now, here's the thing though. I thought that when we saw the positive pregnancy test, we'd just be excited. I mean, it's what we wanted, right? Nah, we were just anxious the whole day, just terrified. We're like, oh shit, what have we done with our lives? And if you are my future child watching this, sorry. That's why your middle name is Whoops. But yeah, that week when we saw the positive pregnancy test was probably the most hectic week. I'd signed 1,600 books, and then my book came out in Australia and New Zealand, so I became a published author that week. We finished our animated pilot that week, and I also hit my YouTube goal, which was 500,000 subs. And all of those things just felt like shit silver medals. Lesson 7. Embrace constant change and let it happen. Lockdown ended with picnic season, baby. Wasn't that cool? Everyone doing picnics. We ended up moving studios to a place with windows, pretty classy. And Fliss and I moved to a much more baby-friendly house. Fliss's twin brother and his partner also told us that they were pregnant. Angus was getting better, he had a job, Mum was out of her wheelchair and walking, and Felicity was getting a bump. We had even heard the baby's heartbeat, which is one of the craziest and most magical things that I think I've ever heard. Ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. Yep, Burgoyne, eat your heart out. That's my kid. Techno baby. But work-wise, I was drained. I don't know, I think it's something about writing a book, doubling my YouTube subs, animating 3 pilots, moving 3 times, having the 2 family traumas, 2 pregnancies, and having a baby ourselves that just kind of left me a bit exhausted. Lesson 8. If you're feeling burnt out and you can, please take a break. If you weren't burnt out by the end of 2021, I am so impressed. I would love to know your secrets because literally everybody that I talked to was drained. Given that we were about to become new parents, we figured, screw it, let's just get out of here. Sun, salt water, bit of country. We even climbed Mount Kosciuszko, which by the way, shout out to Felicity for hiking 24 kilometers up Mount Kosciuszko while pregnant. Real trillionaire grind set shit. My sister had her baby. She called her Summer, which I think is really, really cute. After such a heavy and unpredictable year, it is so nice to know that there's a few beautiful things that are coming from it.
I know it definitely sounds like a stupid cliche to say that I'm glad I didn't kill myself. But looking back, glad I didn't, Not recommend.
But the biggest lesson of them all was lesson 9. There's this pretty classic story about the Zen master and the little boy, and it was really reinforced to me this year. The story goes like this. The boy's father bought him a horse for his 14th birthday, and everyone in the village said, "Isn't that wonderful that the boy got a horse?" And the Zen master said, "We'll see." A couple of years later, the boy fell from his horse, badly breaking his leg, and everyone in the village said, "How awful that he won't be able to walk properly." The Zen master said, "We'll see." Then a war broke out and all the young men had to fight. But this young man, he couldn't because his leg was still messed up, and everyone said, "How wonderful." But the Zen master said, "We'll see." And I think that's how I feel right now. Just, we'll see. You know what I mean? Not too long after Mum's accident, the New Zealand and Australia border shut. You weren't allowed to travel there. It was the one time in this whole pandemic that I've been able to see one of my favorite people on the planet. My brother tried to kill himself, but instead he ended up becoming far more honest with us and the world. Our wedding got cancelled and we didn't want to put our life on hold, and we thought, well, what do we really want? We want kids. I think a lot of us are experiencing that sort of frustration that the future is not only unpredictable, but sometimes it feels like the deck is stacked against us, and the second that things are looking good, it's gone. It's just gone, man. And you're like, oh, dang, I kind of had some dreams and some plans and stuff I wanted to get done. Oh no, It's cool, no worries if not. But I think the new mantra that I'm going with for when all these unpredictable and sometimes annoying things happen is, we'll see. So if you didn't have the best year, if you've got something that's just bouncing in the back of your brain and it's just causing you grief, we'll see.